Hey, what is up, everyone? It is Rich. All right, welcome to 10 Minutes with. So, this was not a request, but on my Patreon, I created a Discord. And as I was setting it up, one oversight that I made, we'll get into Jonathan in 1 second. Give me like 1 minute to just explain what we're going to do here. And, you know, I always think of inking as drawing. I have for a long time, way before I was going to take on penciling. There was just a point where the two ideas sort of merged to me. And ultimately, when I enjoy art, although I know it's a collaborative effort, I don't really separate the two. Either a piece works for me or it doesn't. And it doesn't necessarily need inks. It doesn't necessarily need color. I don't necessarily, like, if the colors are not working for me, then the piece didn't work for me. And like I said, I mean, it's not like I don't understand that there's different people that contribute to it. Anyway, so they said, hey, could we have a section devoted to inking? I said, of course. And then I immediately went, well, I'm going to share. So we have three different sections. There's tools and tips, and there's a thing where you can show your own inks, and then a section for inspirations. And I shared Jonathan Glapion's work because I had done a lesson or review recently, and I was using him as an example of what I consider really excellent contemporary inks. And I decided, hey, you know what? Why don't we carry this over into the YouTube 10 Minutes with and show, inkers some love. And so what I'm going to try to do is once a week, one of the 10 Minutes with will be a spotlight really on an inker. I decided to pick John for a few reasons. One, honestly, Jonathan is probably my favorite modern day inker. Has been for a long time. I think he's great, I mean, he's phenomenal. His work on Capullo is so good. He does great work on everyone that he collaborates with, but he really does an excellent job on Capullo. And Capullo is actually, like, I mean, he looks fun to ink, but it's also challenging too. But I think the fun makes the challenge worthwhile, because when you finish it, you're going to end up with a great piece. On top of that, John is a great artist in his own right. I feel like we have a lot of favorite artists in common, besides maybe some obvious influences. But Jonathan and I both seem to like kind of some of the weird stuff, a little bit of the abstract stuff. I think there's some concept artists that we probably both like, and just a lot of stuff. So anyway, we're going to do the first one on Jonathan Glapion. So I'm going to tell you two that I know that I'm definitely doing, so you don't have to suggest it. You're more than welcome to, of course. But I'm definitely going to do one on Sandra Hope. I'm definitely going to do one on Scott Williams. So those are covered. Bat comes to mind, Joe Weems. I mean, there's definitely no-brainers. I wish Danny Mickey really had more of a presence online. Mickey inks are sometimes difficult to find online, but if anyone has a good resource to like decently high-res scans of Danny's work, let me know, and I will look for that too. But Klaus Janson, I think Sean Gordon Murphy, although he's considered a penciler, is a great inker too. Sorry, let's get to this. No more dilly-dallying. Jonathan Glapion, the man with the plan, a badass MR-effer. And he doesn't take any shit online, which I like too. I'm too nice. Jonathan, he'll tell you if he thinks you're a butthead. All right, so let's go. Batcave. This is from, well, I know it's from Batman Court of Owls, so I was going to try to remember the issue number. It is issue 1. That's what I thought. It's really, really cool. I'll ask right now. Dinosaur Penny, do they go in your Batcave? No one answered last time. I'm telling you, this is an important thing that as an artist you need to decide. But, so look, here's the deal with Jonathan. I actually shot this video earlier, and unfortunately I put a noise filter on the video, and it was clipping, so I had to shoot it again. But this is one thing that I want you to pay attention to as we look at more pieces of John's work. He rarely, if almost ever, throws down a boring line. And what I mean by that is that every single line that he puts down, literally every single line, is interesting. It's a really important thing to understand. I stress this to people. You don't have that many lines to squander when you ink a piece. Depending on the pencils, some art can withstand more sort of wanky lines and others can't. Someone like Capullo, because his stuff has wallpaper-ish type tendencies, you start putting a bunch of lines that don't work together or have just like a kind of a oneness, a sameness to them, it's gonna look flat. It won't read clear. There won't be a dynamic quality to it, and it really won't pop. So I'll explain it more in detail in a second, but just I'm going to point out some things. Since this is digital inks, that was another thing that I complimented John on in the other video. And John, if you ever see this, what's up? I love talking to you on the phone that one night, and I hope to meet you in person someday. But John's a great digital inker, and in fact, I personally think that he's one of the few people that can ink digitally and actually make it look traditionally. The thing is what a lot of people try to do with digital inks to sort of hide that it's digital is they rely heavily on a couple of tools. One is splatter. All right, splatter doesn't make it not look digital. I hate to break the news to people, but it's like, it just looks like digital splatter. It's a repetitive pattern. Even if you have it on a rotate function, I mean, it's like I can see the pixels repeating and they're just rotated. I can tell when you clone stuff. Obviously, I mean, I have a more probably dialed in eye on this, but John can actually ink digitally and really make it look quite authentic. So that is always really, really cool. So let me point out the line thing I was talking about. But any line that John puts down usually will have a thin or a thick. It will have a blip or a blop. He randomizes his lines so that if he has lines in a section, some will be thinner, some will be thicker. Like just this little area right here. This is such a small, we'll call it unimportant part of the drawing. Nothing is unimportant, to be clear, but it's like he goes thin. It's a little thicker, it's a little thicker, it's a little thicker, it's a little thicker, it's a little thicker. This line right here, it's just a little like sweat drop. It still has personality. It starts thin and it gets thicker. That's calligraphy. That's line. That's what we're talking about that's what I'm talking about, is you really, really have to understand that. And the more that you use it throughout your work, the more interesting it'll be. People that have learned, and in particular, if you've learned using a lot of micron, you're going up the river with one paddle, my friend. If you don't understand the lines that Hunt 102s, brushes, different quills, different, vintage quills and stuff like that, if you don't really understand what line weight is, you're not going to figure it out with a micron very easily. I do have a couple of really good videos on inking with a micron, and I explain how I can trick people. There's certain cues that people like for me, I can throw a set of lines that are very, very brushy with any tool. I could do it with a rapidograph, I could do it with a micron, I could do it with a brush, I could do it with a Hunt 102. People will go, oh, I love this brushy area that you did. It's not brush. It's just you see feathered lines and you think it's brush. John is very experimental with his tools, and he uses many different brushes, many different pens, and I always respect and admire that from him. So this is from the Haunt, a detail. We got to keep moving because I've got a lot of files open. This is early in John inking Capullo, and he's still doing what I would consider a pretty good job of keeping stuff separated. It definitely gets a little wallpaper here, but how I know that this stuff is challenging is I've seen people do samples, and people that have taken reviews or lessons from me, or just people that I've seen attempt Capullo online. This will just be a mess. They'll ink all the lines, or most of them, and kind of try to do it, and it just isn't there. They don't understand form. They don't really understand line weight. They don't understand separation, and a lot of that stuff is really, really unforgiving on stuff that is this detailed. And again, this is John cutting his teeth on this work too. These are early in their collaborative things. So this is I don't know if interesting, but there was a point where Capullo had John inking over blue lines on Court of Owls, or the Batman stuff, we'll say, and not all of it though. But there was a time when he did. What I had said in the other video is that I definitely think that Capullo is an artist that really benefits from someone inking over his original pencils, because what ends up happening with inking over someone like Greg in blue is it becomes very, very difficult because of the level of contrast of jet black next to light blue. And when you're inking, the more black that goes down, the harder and harder it becomes to be able to see the blue, because it's just such a different value, essentially. And blue, as you know, is not very friendly on your eye. There's a reason that there's things called blue blockers and all this stuff. And so this it's an antiquated concept, the blue line, and I'll explain why. Not the process of inking over a blue line, the fact that it's done in blue. It doesn't matter what color you do it anymore. Photoshop can remove any color. I can isolate any color in the spectrum, whatever you want to call it. You could do it in green, you could do it in magenta, you could do it in purple. It doesn't matter. And some of the tones are just a little bit easier on your eye. Towards the end, I didn't do it a lot because I knew that collectors would not fucking get it. But I would do them sometimes in a reddish color and sometimes even in really like just a very off pencil color, meaning it was near pencil, but I would put a little bit of red in it because I was tired of looking at blue. But blue line as a process is not bad for everyone. In fact, I preferred it at times because you were working on such a pristine sheet of paper. And collectors buy them. Don't buy into the hype that collectors won't buy blue lines. There's plenty of collectors out there that'll get them. So you've got some people online that talk smack about them, but they're usually old I call them old guard collectors. But yeah, so blue lines, they're excellent to work on. Again, pristine paper. You just want to watch your eyes because staring at a blue line, in particular, over a period of months and years, it will kind of fry your eyes. It becomes hard to see. This is great. I love how active his line is through here. Really, really beautiful just choice. It's an interesting technique. This stuff is all great. He's just so good. He's so good. And I'm excited to show you guys his own work. I know most of you that probably follow him online have seen it, but his personal work is great. I said in the other video, I'm hoping that at some point John does take a stab at actually drawing like a sequential story. He doesn't work his figure muscles as much and tends to stick to heads in his personal work, but this is what I said this in the other video too. John, if you ever see this, just definitely work on your figure stuff. You could totally do a comic book probably right now. People told me that forever too, and I was like, yeah, I know, and then I was always scared to do it. But you know, it's like you have a real cool style. It would look great on a comic and a storytelling. Should try to grab like a short story or something. This is so cool. So on his headshots, things that I particularly like about it, one, he has a very lively pencil line, although we'll see it more in the other ones. He lays down beautiful ink lines. You can almost see like a little bit of like a Topi vibe here. I don't know if it could just be like his line. It kind of reminds me of that. But he's really, really good with like lighting form. And you can see his understanding of actually putting light on the pieces. These are great. But there's an a luminous quality to him. I felt like I had been conjugating that word wrong. We'll say there's a luminous quality to his pieces, but what it is he understands light sources, in particular on heads, and he'll set up his lights in really, really cool ways, and then he's able to follow through very effectively with where he starts to change the value. So things are getting darker, they're going into shadow, form is turning and stuff like that. And he's really got it down. And he does some beautiful, beautiful work. This next one that we're going to see is fantastic when you get to see a little bit of I don't know, he pulled out a little bit. But I mean, you know, it's interesting too, is like I said, I feel like I have a lot in common with John in terms of favorite artists and stuff like that. But something that he's doing that I always felt was possible too is because I'm such a fan of digital art and digital coloring in particular, I always felt that there was definitely a way to do it traditionally and really have the quality of really cool digital painting with pen and ink mixed in, sort of a blend of the two. Concept artists don't seem to understand traditional work. Now, I'm not saying that they don't understand traditional work across the board. What I mean is most of them aren't like professional inkers. And so I think the challenge for them is they all draw well. They could probably all draw traditionally if they're not just a photo basher or, you know, what do you call it? Like a... kit bash type art. But if they can draw, they could probably learn the ink. But yeah, what for comic fans, what we like is we like that ink line, but the digital colors are so cool. And John, I think, is one of the first people that I've seen. There's a few, Mike Huddleston, Fraser Irving. There's a few people that get some really beautiful, almost digital like colors. I think Carrie Nord kind of gets there. You could probably point out other ones too, but it's a digital quality. It's not. I'm not saying good traditional color. I'm talking about stuff that almost looks like it was done digitally but traditionally. So that had been I've wanted to do. I've had that goal for like 10 years. I always felt it was possible. This is great. Same piece, but just in process. But yeah, man, this stuff is so badass. This is, I believe, inks over Capullo. Capullo again, I think. Again, just really exciting lines. This is great. This is one of his personal pieces. All this is really cool. He does this really cool too. Is he'll create like planes on something. I'll do another color, but he'll create planes on something, and he's really good at like shading them different values. Like he knows top planes, he knows down planes and stuff like that. Chris Stevens is really good at that too. When you see Chris turn form and stuff like that, he always nails that. His pencils are just as bouncy as his inks. Very cool. But yeah, the way to get digital inks looking traditional is if you've got a good handle on traditional to begin with, it definitely will help. I would avoid like the stabilized tools. Use it very minimally. You know, chip up your blacks a little bit. I mean, you can use the paint bucket tool to sort of drop black in, but you definitely need to go back in and sort of break it up. But the thing is the fast way to do it, which everyone uses, everyone wants the shortcut, is they use splatter. But the splatter doesn't look like this kind of splatter, even with the more randomized ones. I mean, I have blood drip splatters. I have a whole bunch of different digital splatter brushes. You know. And you can blend it in. I think, though, for me, as I've looked at so much traditional art and done a lot of traditional art, it helps. But here's another example of, like point out any boring lines on this. It's really difficult to find them. There's just nothing is flat and just dull. Everything's got a little bit of pizzazz. Sorry, we're running out of time. I got to hustle. Hustle the bustle. This is great. But yeah, Capullo and Glapion together really just ended up being one of those magical comic book combinations that it works so good, you know. And Capullo's had other great inkers, you know. Oops. And this is some sort of fancy nib. Like I said, John is real adventurous with his tools, which I like. These look like some vintage nibs that I have because they have the similar color. There's like it's kind of an iridescent, like bluish purple. This is from the Hunt. Yep. Really, really good stuff. Man, this whole sequence with the pictures on the wall and all that stuff. Oh, man, it was so cool. Such a great story. I think, I don't even know how many different versions of Court of Owls, because I have the comics, of course. I have the hardcover, regular hardcover. I have the unwrapped. I have the absolute. John, you're buying me a coffee. This was great. This was what I ended the other video on this because I had jabbered a little bit more about inking and sort of my thoughts on inking, and kind of I didn't do as much of this, but that is so cool. Man, those nice brush lines. He's using a Raphael here. Sable hair, probably. I mean, it is with that was a number 2. This is nice too. You know, Sandra is the same way though. Sandra doesn't have a boring line in her, and Trevor Scott is another one. When Trevor inks, his line was so just magical. This is great. And the nice thing is you know, you get like 95% of your lines. Like you should try to probably go over 90% of interesting lines. Then, I mean, sometimes intentionally you'll put lines that are flatter is a different texture. Because like right here, although they're not really flat, but like right there, whoops, sorry. See, look at all the crazy brushes I have in Photoshop. Yeah, you know, you can use it as almost like a reverse effect where you're almost laying it in like a screen tone where you go, like I purposely want some lines that are the equal thing because I want this to be a very equal value of gray. But most of the time, you're pulling stuff in thin to thick, and then the thicker lines will get closer together. There's all kinds of little tricks that you can do. But again, if you look at just a singular line, they're very, very rarely one note. Like there's none of this like I'm just gonna outline the eye with like a wobbly line and do all this, you know, kind of thing where you're just outlining stuff. Don't outline. More cool things. Digital piece, or maybe a piece that was traditional that he scanned that he's just cleaning up or something like that. There's some Finch. Not a super high res scan, but all right, you guys have a great day. We'll end it on this. It's funny because looking at this, I'm not 100% sure who this is. This almost looks like Finch, but it could be Capullo. I don't recognize the piece. The hand looks, it's kind of hard to tell. All right, so look, Jonathan Glapion's a badass. I'll have a link to his social media, and I got these scans off of DeviantArt and Instagram, the IG, yeah, he's great. I look forward to one day buying a comic book that just says pencils, inks, and colors, Jonathan Glapion. Who needs pencilers, John? No, I'm just kidding. We do. They pay the bills, right? All right, you guys have a great day. I love you all, and I'll be back tomorrow with, I think we'll start a new influence chain. So if you have any ideas for an influence chain, let me know. I am considering maybe starting with Jack Kirby. Oh, this is another thing. If you're this far into the video, you can hang out for a second and hear me out. I want to do a thing, and I saw this. There was it was a heavy metal documentary series, and I'm spaced on the name because I wasn't planning on talking about it today. But anyway, he actually had created a family tree, and what I thought would be really fun is I want to create a poster for everyone that will someday be available. I'll make it super fancy. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to like this would just be an example, is we'd have Jack Kirby, John Buscema. We could even go above them, and we start to bring it down, and we get all the people that Jack Kirby influenced. We'd have to have a limit on the number, and then where it went from there, and where it went from there, and create a big, colorful, like kind of classic vintage style Marvel or DC, you know, like just like I said, something that really looks cool, that has all the artist names that we love on it. It's like in a big, just family tree. I could even maybe do it as a design as a tree, you know, where, you know, you've got a tree and it kind of goes down. Who knows, something like that. But let me know where we would start on something like that, and I'll start to slowly cobble it together. Probably it would be like a year-long project, and then like I said, I would release it maybe as like a really kick-ass poster or something. I mean, I would hang it up if I had an opportunity to get it, just because I think it would be so interesting to see, and something you could always go back to and look at and kind of get more sort of fun. And I don't know, just even seeing the names kind of brings memories to me. You know, if I see Jim Lee to Travis, it's like that floods the memory gates immediately. Or maybe John Byrne to Jim Lee, or whatever all the different chains are. But let me know where we would start on something like that. Like, what would be, like, is there one artist that we could identify as like the genesis of it all? I don't even know. Could that be the seed? Maybe the tree starts like this and goes up. We plant the seed. Is it Eisner? I think there's got to be something before Eisner that was just as influential. But you let me know. All right, you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.